going to start with a song. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho. Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. You may talk about the men of Gideon, you may talk about the men of Saul, but there's none like the good old Joshua at the battle of Jericho. Up to the walls of Jericho with sword drawn in his hand. Go blow them horns like Joshua, the battle is in my hands. This African-American spiritual was composed to connect to the story of Joshua to the end of slavery, inspired by the ideas of walls being destroyed by allies and freeing those trapped inside of oppressive structures. The mentioned stories themselves of Gideon, Saul, and Joshua all come from the Hebrew Bible, from the book of prophets. Saul blew his quote-unquote horn to announce freedom and gather his troops together. Gideon used horns to confuse and defeat the enemy and announce victory. And Joshua, the good old Joshua from the song, was the one who was given the leadership position over the Israelites after the death of Moses at the end of the Torah. As we turn the page to the book of prophets, he and the people screamed and blew their horns so loudly that, as the story goes, the walls of the enemy crumbled. And what was the horn that they all blew? Can you guess? It's the shofar, of course. Because the shofar is a naturally occurring instrument, it is one of the few instruments of ancient Israel we can fully understand. The shofar we will blow here in a few moments is extremely close, if not exactly like the ones blown by our ancestors. Seeing it, hearing it, even smelling it, and if you've never smelled one, oh, it has a smell, brings us closer to our ancient relatives. The people of ancient Israel blew shofar in battle to convey information, to announce seasons, months, the arrival of holidays, to gather people, to signal when it was time to move and when it was time to stop moving. It is mentioned 72 times in the Hebrew Bible, and in the stories of the Tanakh, which is the Torah, the prophets, and our writings, music and sound, including the blowing of the shofar, were also used to scare away evil spirits. Sound and music were considered to be much like God, mystical, invisible, powerful, and magical. Rosh Hashanah is also known as Yom Teruah, the day of blasting. The word teruah, which we usually associate with the blowing of the shofar, and is in fact the name of the blast that is 9 consecutive short blasts meant to wake you up like an alarm clock, like an assault on our senses. The word actually means festival scream. One definition for teruah says, on one hand, it means alarm or scream, and on the other hand, shout or jubilation. According to the individual situation, it can be taken to mean cry, especially a war cry, and a shout of joy. Teruah can be the sound of voices as well as of the shofar. In fact, in the story of Joshua, the walls tumbled after the people shouted, perhaps screaming and crying their war cry. And this is what we are about to do. Usually the shofar blowing is a passive experience. Maybe we help shout the call names, but the shofar blower, does all the work. It is to shake us out of our old selves, call us toward change, and make us aware of the evolution in the seasons and in ourselves. But before we hear our formal calls, we're going to be part of the experience of shouting our own war cries and turning the tradition around. Who during this past year hasn't had moments when we wanted to scream out, be it because of personal pain, political pain, injustice, anger, loss of life, or human rights? Who didn't want to scream when another event or plan was canceled or altered because of COVID? Who didn't want to call out a war cry when we heard of another shooting or the fall of Roe? Who doesn't want to holler as we come to terms with the state of the planet? And so let's let it all out. Let's truly begin our cleansing process, not with passivity, but by being active participants. So I want you to get ready because you are going to scream. Are you ready to scream? You will have to lead the screaming. All right, give me something you want to scream about. Anything. Homelessness. Okay. Perfect. So we're going to do one blast. It doesn't have to sound like a shofar blast, but it is going to mimic a single scream, like a tekiyah. So I'm going to call out tekiyah, and you're all just going to go, ah! And let it out, right? For homelessness. Tekiyah. Give me another one. Give me something else. School shootings. We're going to do the shivarim. That's 3. 1, 2, 3 shouts. For school shootings, shivarim. Give me another one. The fall of Roe v. Wade. Okay, we're going to do a tekiyah, the single scream. Here we go. For the fall of Roe, tekiyah. Okay, give me one more. Actually, 2 more. Just injustice in general. We're going to do our turah. That's 9 blasts. So it's going to be You have to imagine a baby strapped in who's like really doesn't want to be there anymore, and they get that like broken cry. That is what we are going for. For all injustice, teruah. That's okay. It deserves 10. Okay, and now I want you to think about all of that and think of everything that we didn't say. Everything else has just been frustrating and maddening. Every time that news cycle pops again and you can't believe what you're seeing and you just need to let it out. We're going to take all of that disappointment in ourselves, in others, every regret, every mistake. Fill yourself with those fears and worries and our challenges. We're going to do a tekiyah gadolah. So we're going to take a deep breath. And we're going to shout as long as we can until we are red in the face and we are out of air. And we are going to just let it all go. Here we go. Tekiyah gadolah. Control lasted a really long time. Okay, now we are emptied. We are settled. We have let it out. We can, like in yoga, like when you're all tense and then you just like let it all go. And now we're going to hear the real shofar. So join me. We are on page. We are an unnamed page. It's 46, but it has nothing on the bottom. We're going to do the blessings and then hear our real shofar calls. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Our first set malchuyot to awaken us to our past and say, I am not everything. First, a tekiyah. Tekiyah.